Your musical baby, what they know and hear. Pregnancy is an incredibly exciting time. Many people purchase a copy of What to Expect When You're Expecting, which is a best-selling book about pregnancy that details the baby's growth and development and helps families prepare for the baby's arrival. Some people create pregnancy tickers or trackers that they share on Facebook to show friends and family about the baby's development each week. There are even smartphone apps that provide information about baby development right on your phone. Learning about your baby's growth and development is fascinating and helps you connect with your baby. Parents help as possible and do everything they can to aid in development. Some people have heard that putting headphones on your belly and listening to classical music can help your child become a musical prodigy or a genius. Is there any truth to those rumors? What do babies hear and know about music? In order to understand that, we have to know a little more about the baby. The baby brain grows at an incredible rate. 580,000 brain cells grow every single minute. From developmental week 29 through a birth at 40 weeks, a baby's brain increases in size by 160%. But different parts of the brain grow at different times. For example, while babies are still in the womb and their skulls are not formed, parts of the brain called the ventricles, which you can see in pink in the bottom left corner, help protect other developing parts of the brain by filling with fluid. However, as the baby grows, other parts of the brain, like the cerebellum, increase in size. The cerebellum is responsible for motor control, and its growth helps babies reach physical milestones like sitting up or walking. Brain development in babies is determined by genetic instructions and from interactions with their environment. These two information sources help the baby brain to grow. Babies are born with over 100 billion brain cells. These brain cells, or neurons, are the cells that transmit this genetic and experiential information. But neurons don't do all the work by themselves. They make connections in order to transmit information. When a neuron makes a connection to another neuron, the information travels from the cell body all the way down the axon of the neuron to a space between one neuron and the other called the synapse. The information travels from one neuron to the other across the synapse. When these connections are made often, parts of the neuron branch closer to one another to make that connection easier, as you can see in the lower left-hand corner. There are actual parts of the neuron branching closer together to other cell bodies in order to facilitate connections. The connections made by baby brains can be molded by their life experiences. What they hear, see, smell, touch, and taste all help make those connections. When those connections are very important, they're strengthened and protected by a process called myelination. A fatty protective sheath grows around important commonly used connections. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see the process of myelination. The green areas are the myelinated areas. As you can see throughout the progression of the video, strong connections become even stronger and become a deeper green, and more areas of the brain are covered with myelin. Important connections are kept and protected. Connections that are not as important or not as frequently used may not be protected and may eventually be pruned away. There's a saying in brain development called use it or lose it, meaning that if we don't make connections, they'll be discarded and be much harder to make later. This is why some people believe that having their children learn languages or music early is very important. If the connections can be built and maintained, they can be retained. Additionally, learning something new and different, like a new language, may be difficult later in life, and the connections made by learning your first language make it more difficult to learn another language later in life, because the connections you need to make are harder to form. So, is there any truth to the idea that babies can learn music before they're born? Well, babies can hear in the womb beginning about 16 to 20 developmental weeks. They can hear sounds like their mother's voice, heartbeat, digestion, and other movement. Babies can even hear some sounds that occur outside the mother's body. However, those sounds are muffled because the sound travels through the mother's body and through amniotic fluid. Some scientists believe that babies move in response to sounds consistently around 28 through 32 developmental weeks. However, some babies become used to the sounds that they hear frequently and may not react by kicking or with movement. In the last few weeks before birth, though, a fetus's heart rate may increase or decrease in response to sound. But do babies remember the sounds that they hear in the womb before they're born? There are indications that babies respond to sounds they've heard before birth. One of the ways that babies bond with their mothers is through hearing her voice and her heartbeat, which they have become accustomed to. Babies, when they're born, actually know a lot about music. They can detect changes in the shape of a melody, that is, whether it goes up, down, or stays the same. For example, if I sang, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are," and then I changed it slightly, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are," babies would be able to detect the difference. They process pitch similarly to adults. Babies also move to music. Although their movements don't always match the beat or underlying pulse, babies usually move quickly to fast music and slowly to slow music, as you can see with the baby in the bottom center of the screen. There are even times when babies can perceive changes or parts of music that adults cannot. Adults have become used to hearing certain kinds of music over and over again. We've become accustomed to rhythm patterns or harmonies of the music that we listen to every day. Because those neural connections are well established, we as adults might have difficulty perceiving small differences in music that we hear all the time. But babies are not set into a specific musical way, so they're usually able to perceive changes in music that adults don't. Scientists have seen babies do this at birth or very soon after. You might ask how scientists know all of this. How do they know what babies can and cannot perceive? There are several ways that scientists use to determine what a baby knows about music. Babies do not always suck to feed. When they suck outside of a feeding, it's called non-nutritional sucking. Scientists have seen babies change their non-nutritional sucking rate or heart rate in response to music. Babies also turn their heads towards sound or fix their attention or eye gaze on a sound source. Another way that scientists learn about what babies perceive is by measuring electrical activity in the brain in response to music. This is usually done by placing electrodes on the baby's head. This is a painless, harmless procedure that tells scientists a lot about a baby's response to music. That we've learned about babies is something that caregivers have known about babies for a long time. They enjoy lullabies. Babies prefer lullabies that have a higher pitch, slower tempo, intimate voice quality, and exaggerated emotional expression. Not only does singing to the baby help calm and soothe them, it also helps to bond. What does this mean? Does this mean that putting headphones on your belly won't help your child to be a baby Mozart? What this means is that babies already know a lot about music when they're born. Their responsiveness to underlying pulse, their ability to detect small changes in music, and their ability to remember things like the sound of their mother's voice and heartbeat suggests that they're already musical experts. There may be no benefit to putting headphones on a pregnant belly. Staying healthy by eating well, getting enough sleep, and keeping stress levels low can help you have a healthy baby that's already ready for the music of the world. However, if you enjoy listening to music, playing music, or singing music, continue with those activities. Not only is music a stress reliever for you, but the biochemical connection you have with your baby helps them feel good during these activities as well. When the baby's born, it's a great idea to play and experience many different kinds of music from around the world. This may help the baby make and preserve those musical connections that help them recognize and become accustomed to those musics. The use it or use it principle applies to different musical sounds. But remember, your happy, healthy baby is already a musical expert at birth. Thank you for listening and have a happy, healthy 9 months.